Evan Snow. He's the co-founder of Zero Empty Spaces. Evan is a local arts advocate, community builder, creative entrepreneur, and one of the proudest Broward County natives you will ever meet. That pride has led him to furthering the Choose 954 social movement he created just a few years ago to cultivate culture and community in his native Broward County. Evan has created multiple initiatives to highlight the local creatives he's built relationships with over the years, including Art Fort Lauderdale, the Art Fair on the Water, Fort Lauderdale Art and Design Week, the Choose 954 Local Artist Discovery Series, AAL Creative Zen, and Zero Empty Spaces, among others. He's very accomplished. We are very lucky to have him. Please give a warm welcome to Evan.
Thank you guys for being here, and thank you guys for having us. I like to keep these fun, interactive, and engaging. I'll ask some questions. There is no wrong answer to any of these questions. First question is, how many of you guys know where Broward County is? Okay, it's where Fort Lauderdale is. Fort Lauderdale, most people know. How many of you guys have ever heard of an area called Wynwood in Miami? Street art capital of the world, largest outdoor public art museum. How many of you guys have ever heard of this thing called Art Basel? Largest art fair in the world, draws 1 million people to Miami the first week of December every year, creates $1 billion economic impact for 1 week of art. So this is happening in our backyard, about 30 minutes down the road from us, and the area that I live in Broward County, which is just to the north of Miami and just south of Palm Beach, has kind of always been the stepchild or in the shadows of these other communities. And a few years ago, I found myself getting involved in the arts. I started going to Wynwood, I started going to Art Basel. It had a profound impact on me. It took me from being a regular Johnny 9-to-5 recruiter to find a higher calling that I had buried inside of me to become a community builder, creative entrepreneur. And I enjoy sharing this story because if I was just a regular guy that was able to make a couple choices to support the local artists and creatives that I was forming relationships with, I like to think anybody can start initiatives like this, placemaking initiatives. I want to give you guys some context, though, as to who we are. At first and foremost, we are arts advocates. Arts had a profound impact on my life and my business partner's life, starting various platforms that we're going to let you know a little bit about that have been very rewarding and fulfilling for me personally and professionally. We initially started with a local artist discovery series where a restaurant on our downtown Las Olas, which is kind of like our main street, asked us to bring in artists every Wednesday night during their ladies' night, which was one of the slower nights, to live paint, to pop up and also display work, but interact, have it be kind of like an activation and an engagement. Obviously, you can see families and kids getting involved. This was one of my favorite placemaking platforms that we created because this platform served as the first exhibition opportunity for dozens of artists. And it, being on a main street, being on a high commerce area, also this was a relatively upscale restaurant, really helped catapult a lot of artists' careers as I was in my early stages of arts advocacy and community building, establishing relationships with artists. We provided the canvas, we provided them a food tab, we provided marketing and support, and then there was a lot of traffic and foot traffic that was going through the main street, even on a Wednesday night. So that was that. And then, as I mentioned, we're in Fort Lauderdale, and this behemoth called Art Basel is literally right down the street from us, but the community that I lived in, not my term, was considered a cultural wasteland, and that was the term that county executives and leadership was using. We wanted to put Fort Lauderdale and my home community on the map, on the art world map, as an international destination to view and interact with art. And since we were so far behind this Art Basel thing in Miami and so far behind Palm Beach, we thought to ourselves, we need to do something unique to help put us on the map. So instead of doing what everybody else would do for a signature art event in a tent, a convention center, or a hotel, we thought about what are the unique elements that we have in Fort Lauderdale that could help that we could leverage to differentiate us from what everybody else does with these traditional art fair models. So we have beautiful homes off what's known as the Las Olas Intercoastal Waterways, the Venice of the Americas. We have a water taxi system that moves people throughout this Venice of the Americas. And we have a really unique backdrop to put art in a setting where it ultimately lives, in a home. So we came up with the first art fair in the world to take place inside of mansions that are for sale, make it only accessible via boat, partnering with realtors and brokers, so on and so forth. That created not only the most glorified open house showcase imaginable, but a very unique opportunity. This was also primarily for independent artists, not represented by a gallery. We kept the barrier to entry and the cost very affordable because that Art Basel fairs that I was mentioning and alluding to, the barrier to entry is so high, it's thousands of dollars. Generally, only artists that are represented by galleries are able to get into these art fairs. So we keep it super affordable. And this was our first foray into a signature annual art event. We were doing this for 4 years up until COVID. The last one we did was in January 2020. But as evidenced by, this was on something called PBS Art Loft. We succeeded in our mission of putting Fort Lauderdale on the art world map as an international destination to view and interact with art, as evidenced by the press that we received, NPR, CNN Travel, Thrillist, and a lot of travel sites and everything else in between. So this was a great arts advocacy initiative to give our artists the platform to be discovered, showcased, collected, and shown, because if our artists locally don't have those opportunities, then we found they're going to have to leave to go other places to pursue their craft, their passion, their creative outlet, or their profession, whatever it may be for them. And art could be many different things for many different people. So I don't know why this thing doesn't want to cooperate, but I might just say forget it. So we're doing this for 4 years. This also led to Miami Art Basel, just quick context, is one art fair in the Miami Beach Convention Center on South Beach. There is a whole slew of hundreds of satellite events that contribute to that billion-dollar economic impact that take place that first week of December that now is considered Miami Art Week. And there's other art weeks, obviously, throughout the world, so we, from this, created Fort Lauderdale Art and Design Week to expand throughout the community, throughout the whole county, which has 32 cities, because we were establishing relationships with artists, arts organizations, and institutions throughout the year, but we could only fit so many artists in the homes, and we could only fit so many people on the boats. So we wanted to be more inclusive, so we created Fort Lauderdale Art and Design Week, which does still run, even although the art fair doesn't run any longer, which we're very proud to do on our 6th annual installment. Artist talks, open studio tours, dinners, parties. The county decided to create a big light projection show to bring in international artists to do very immersive light projections in our downtown. So this initial event served as a catalyst, which our goal initially, just as I mentioned, putting Fort Lauderdale on the art world map as a destination to interact with art, has led to so many other placemaking benefits, people establishing business partnerships and relationships, getting collected by galleries, museums, and so on and so forth, just by, in this instance, activating vacant residential real estate spaces, these homes that would just sit vacant, waiting to be sold for, $10 million. And those houses, before COVID, used to sit vacant for long periods of time, so we're really glad to do that. So we did 4 years of this. We plan to bring it back one day. In between then, how many of you guys have ever heard of this term called the creative economy? Something Richard Florida, leading economist, created, and we wanted to kind of storytell some of the other benefits of this creative economy. So we created a platform, an annual panel discussion, Art, Culture, the Creative Economy in the City. We invite, that's me on the right, the gentleman next to me is the city commissioner that used to work for our culture division. The woman in the middle is a venture capitalist, billionaire, supporter of the arts. She serves as the chair of the Broward County Cultural Council, and then that's my business partner on the left. So different backgrounds, different walks of life to talk about their perspectives as it relates to the creative economy, as it relates to the local art scene, and then we give community members and attendees literal, tangible ways that either they can support the creative economy and support a local artist, and supporting a local artist gives them revenue and dollars to go to the art supply store, so the art supply store could stay in business, and literally connecting those dots for people that might not have even realized they were supporting the creative economy. And this event and many of the events we were doing, the Local Artist Discovery Series was a free event. The art fair understandably had a ticket because we had to charter boats, but a lot of these events that we do are free for the community. I'm going to grab this other mic here one second. So we still do this annual panel discussion. We're glad to host this annual panel discussion. And basically, so out of this, we're establishing a lot of relationships with various people in the community, and then that led us to more community building efforts. We're in the middle of COVID. We wanted to find a way to bring people together, but safely, social distantly. I love riding my bike, and I do a bunch of stuff with some other bike advocates. I know Mickey's talk is at the same time. Through this Choose 954 social movement we initially started, we created a 954 day, September 5th at 4 p.m., which we thought would be a great time to do a community-driven bike ride where I could take people through different neighborhoods, communities, show them some of the murals, and bring people together safely and social distantly during COVID. We also created a few other support local initiatives, $9.54 business offerings for local restaurants to make a $15 burger or whatever meal available for $9.54 to encourage people to support local businesses, take people to places throughout the community that maybe they wouldn't have gone to previously, talk about the murals, talk about the public art, get great drone shots and all those things. So these are just some of the other community building platforms that we came up with from the ground up. We're obviously solutions based. My business partner has an extensive background in advertising, marketing, and shopping center and retail development, which we'll get to. We like creating platforms that highlight and showcase the creatives that we know and love. So the art fair served a platform to give a platform for artists to get discovered and collected. We love craft beer. My business partner's wife is big into women's empowerment. The woman that empowered me started the Women's Empowerment Expo. So she, Andrew's wife, created something called the Femme Ale Brew Fest, a pioneering craft beer festival highlighting and celebrating women in the craft beer industry. You get 40-plus brewers from around the world now to come to Fort Lauderdale, do this was at a hotel on the beach, which was not on the main drag. It was one of the older boutique bed and breakfast hotels that had recently been acquired. Not a lot of people knew about it. So another placemaking initiative, activating a hotel with a beautiful courtyard, beautiful footprint and layout to bring people together over a shared passion of craft beer and try some of these craft breweries from all around the world, which were either women owned or had women brewers. And we're also big on education, so there's a lot of classes, sensory tasting, and just more education, engagement, so on and so forth. So I just wanted to give some context as to some of the placemaking of our other community building and placemaking initiatives. Last one on this note, how many of you guys know what mezcal is? Mezcal. It's a smoky cousin of tequila from the agave plant. It's a relatively new category in the U.S. It's based out of Oaxaca in Mexico, but there was no mezcal festival, and we love this mezcal. It goes down very smooth. There's low carbs, no sugar, no hangover, and it's a really unique, interesting category. So we created the first mezcal festival called Mezcal Lauderdale to give a platform for these mezcaleros and these farmers that have been doing this ancestrally in Mexico to bring their product into the U.S., have panels about the sustainability of the agave plant, and just once again really create these platforms obviously to highlight the creatives which we're supporting, but also further drive traffic to our community as community builders by creating these unique destination types of events and experiences in Broward County, in Fort Lauderdale. So now we have, I told you about Art Fair, Art Week, Social Movement, 954 Day, Beer Festival, and mind you, all self-funded. Unfortunately, our government doesn't prioritize funding to things like this. That's another conversation for another day. I'm here to keep it fairly positive. We're not independently wealthy people that can go around funding these things willy-nilly, but we knew to get these platforms off the ground, we were gonna have to find ways very intuitively, very bootstrapping-wise to self-fund these things to get them off the ground. So we were able to do that. Now we're finally starting to get some sponsorship, and the county's finally starting to come around with some funding. But this all started for me with, how many of you guys listen to TED Talks? TED Talks had a profound impact on my life. Do you guys have a Creative Mornings chapter over here? Have anybody of you ever heard of Creative Mornings? It's a monthly breakfast lecture series. It's a mini TED Talk that's held for free in over 200 cities around the world. They have a similar format. Little free coffee, breakfast, networking, mixing and mingling with your community. One speaker comes in, shares their thought-provoking, inspiring story, somebody local, relatable in the community. It served as my aha moment, so I pay it back and pay it forward, and I continue to host this event for free, bringing in different people, entrepreneurs, artists, yogis, startup founders, various people in between to share their thought-provoking story for free every second Friday morning of the month. We've been doing this for a little over 7 years now. So these are some of our ways that we bring people together all throughout the month. And then this one now ties into what we really came here to hear about, which is, well, we've done a lot of things. This one, last one, we work a lot with the hotels. The Fort Lauderdale Hotel had just gone through a big, like, $60 million renovation. They wanted to drive people out there. We like throwing parties. So we've created not just like a party, but like we brought in different artists to paint, like the Don P bottles, performance artists, DJs, live painters. We also brought in a gentleman that does something called light baths. He's a photographer. It's a very cathartic, very intuitive process that a lot of people enjoy, having this light projected on them, and then having Jared, the photographer, take these very artistic photos. And this is just, once again, not just a party, but a different way to bring people together, to drive people to this beautifully renovated portion of the W Hotel in Fort Lauderdale. Creates an economic impact. The artists get paid, the DJs get paid, the photographer got paid, and then it, just another one of our various placemaking initiatives during the art fair, this was one of the after parties on the Saturday night of the art fair. So, what we really came here for, oh man. The Art Week, I kind of already told you a little bit about. We also have a series of artist talks called Art Discourse, where we bring in various people to give our community front row access to brilliant minds. Somewhere in between here, I know this sounds like we do a lot, we do. Some artists came to me and they said, I want to put sculptures on top of rocks and put them in the ocean. I go, I don't know what that meant. And they go, we want to create artificial reefs. I go, oh, that sounds good. They showed me a documentary called Chasing Coral. Has anybody ever heard of that? It's made by the people that made Seaspiracy. It had a big moment, at least in South Florida, for raising awareness about illegal shark fin trading and stuff like that. But these artists wanted to make these sculptures in the form of mermaids and make 1,000 of them. 10 seemed too achievable. 100 was something we could attain. 1,000 was kind of like an infinite number. The corals are dying. We like to use art as a problem solver, so we created this platform and this nonprofit called the 1,000 Mermaids Artificial Reef Project, which led to the Ocean Rescue Alliance, which has led to dozens of innovations in coral restoration, ocean conservation, and outplanting, using the power of art and sculpture to raise awareness, to draw people in to these issues that are unfortunately out of sight, out of sight, out of mind for so many people. And then we generally integrate, we would do body casting of local people in the community to create the mermaid sculptures, so there's that artistic sculptural element to it. So yes, I do find time to sleep. Thank you for your concern. But in between doing that, we came up with an initiative because commercial real estate developers, property managers, and brokers were now coming to us saying, hey, can you do art in our space? Oh yeah, by the way, we're not going to pay you for it. So my business partner had a background in shopping center and retail development. He worked for Westfield Corporation, one of the largest mall companies in the world. He developed the first commission-free art gallery in a mall in an underutilized vacant portion of the food court. So we were leaving a meeting one day. We saw all these for lease signs. That day, a news article came out on NPR that said Broward County, my home county, where I'm born and raised from, is one of the least affordable counties for housing. We turned to each other and said, what if we can make this one of the most affordable places for artists to create in? What if we can even make this a destination for artists to want to come to create, not Miami? Because Miami, and I like to make this point, especially for people that know and care about the arts, the very few art residencies in Miami are heavily juried. You have to have an MFA. You have to know somebody. You have to be in the Cool Kids Club, regardless of how talented you are, regardless of the quality of your work. We pride ourselves on being inclusionary and pairing emerging, mid-career, and established artists together in environments like the art fair, and then in environments into these artistic spaces, because we've come to find if artists don't have space to create and collaborate outside their homes, once again, they're going to have to leave to go other places to pursue their craft, their passion, their creative outlet or profession. You should be able to be an artist in a place like Lansing. You shouldn't have to go to Detroit or Chicago or another big city. So this was one of them that we did in a mall on the Simon property. You can see, obviously, the transformation there. So we create these affordable working artist studios and vacant storefronts around the country where artists can create and collaborate at an affordable price, have the ability to be discovered, and sell their work at their studio. We don't take any commission, all with the goal of expanding the appreciation of various genres of visual art and helping to create a thriving cultural community in various cities across the world. Since we've opened this, well, when we opened this, so this was our first space. This was actually on that downtown Main Street, Las Olas Boulevard, which at the time was struggling with high price of commercial real estate rents. It was $86 a square foot, and there was about 19 vacancies. Every third door was closed. So we came up with this idea. We reached out to the mayor, who's a supporter of the arts, one of the first openly gay mayors of a major city in the country. He said, "Hey, Dean, what do you think about this?" He goes, "Why don't you reach out to Mike Weymouth, the owner of Las Olas?" We always heard this guy was a tough cookie. It took him 3 minutes. He gave us the space. This space was vacant for 3 years. We go in there. We have one of the widest attended grand opening receptions of anything on Las Olas and in Fort Lauderdale because of the novelty of it, because of the uniqueness of it. If we were just doing a gallery opening, sure, some arts supporters and maybe collectors might have come out, but because these were local artists creating and having their studio on Main Street, there was a very unique novelty to it. The press has been very complimentary and generous to the concept. It's covered by NPR, PBS, so on and so forth. And we had about 1,000 people at this first event. This has since led to 30 formerly vacant spaces having been activated now over the last 4 years. We're in 3 states, 9 counties. We've supported over 500 artists throughout the process. It's changed hundreds of artists' lives, thousands of times over. I never would have imagined when I set out with my cell phone and a hashtag, that Choose954, that I would be putting artists in former Burberry stores in the first and only art studio in the world located next to a Louis Vuitton, where somebody is walking out, spending thousands of dollars and saying, "What's this art studio right here?" And that's why I like sharing, these stories and like the connected threads and tissues with you guys, because I was not into art 7 years ago. I was a regular Johnny 9-to-5 recruiter, sitting at a desk, listening to some TED Talks, getting some inspiration, going to a place called Wynwood, seeing the power of art to transform a former industrial warehouse community, a very rundown area of Miami, that now literally the artists unfortunately can't afford to be there. You might, if you haven't heard already, of something called the Wynwood effect. That area was the one that unfortunately is the model that people look to as a bad example of gentrification. But in all reality, and they don't talk about this in the press, the artists weren't living in the warehouses. It was an industrial area. But basically, the values increased, and now those formerly vacant warehouses sell for $100 million to become condos. Another story for another day. But, obviously the people that we've worked with are very happy and, proud of the initiative and glad to support us. So that was Mike Weymouth that owned Las Olas Company, Main Street, Fort Lauderdale. We work with smaller developers as well. This guy is in a smaller suburb, had some vacant space that hadn't really been doing anything for years. And we really did clean his space up. We painted it. We'll bring places up to code. We can't spend thousands of dollars, but we'll add lighting, signage, and we serve as one point of contact. So we came up with the idea. We did the logo, branding, website, social, public relations. We do the marketing. We do the leasing. we do the build out. We do all of this. We're very resourceful, we're very passionate, as you can begin to see, but we do that to absorb the cost. No one's offered us a nickel for a donation. It is what it is. I'm not holding my breath waiting for donations to come through, but if we were going to wait for a check or a grant, we might still be waiting. So to get this off the ground and to keep it affordable for artists, we rent it to artists at $2.50 a square foot. Average space is 8 by 12, 96 square feet. So we make a space available for $250 a month on a month-to-month basis with the water and electric included, so the artists get a small corner of a space. They don't have to commit to the entire space. We do the insurance, we do everything, so all they have to do is apply, show up, and paint. And the low barrier to entry and the no risk with the month-to-month element has made it obviously very, it took down the barrier to entry, made it very accessible for a lot of artists. We are very proud of some of these success stories. I don't know if these will resonate with you because you don't know who these people are, but try to draw some context here. So this gentleman has been painting for over 40 years in West Palm Beach. Very talented. He was getting by, but he was not getting ahead. We put him in a former Woodhouse Day Spa, very nice space. He was painting at home for many years. That he gets a lot of press. We got a lot of press, and we gave him magazine covers. We put him on the TV episodes, so on and so forth. We got connected with the director of the major museum in West Palm Beach called the Norton Museum. They came toward the studio, and we are very proud that this very deserving African-American artist from the historical African-American community in a very white area of West Palm Beach, Florida, which is, as some of you guys might know, where Mar-a-Lago is. He is the only living artist I know to have work collected by a museum. And he's doing 6 figures in sales now, which we're very happy for and glad to support. We put him on a cover of a magazine in July of 2020, in Palm Beach Magazine. He got a call a week ago. Somebody goes, "Oh, I picked up this magazine in the doctor's office on the coffee table. I want to buy some of your work." That could have happened if he was still painting at home. But because he got in the space, because the novelty and the uniqueness of the space and the innovation and the concept, because the press likes those innovative concepts, and because he got that opportunity, even if he sold nothing else ever again, that's a win for us. So we're super happy. His name's super proud, happy to support him. His name's Anthony Burks. Obviously very well received, very well deserving. He also started a nonprofit called No More Starving Artists Foundation. And they do a lot of great work in Palm Beach. Obviously, great name. I don't know how it wasn't taken, but No More Starving Artists Foundation. This was the first artist we had in the program. I had known her, she's a very sweet soul. I didn't know she was an investment banker. She was like the head of investment banking for like the largest company we had in Fort Lauderdale, like $1 billion company. But she wanted to paint, and she wanted to spend more time with her kids, and she didn't want to continue working that corporate job. And she comes into space, we put her on NPR, she's now painting, her mediums have changed, she's painting shoes for NBA players and has a waiting list and is doing what she loves, given the opportunity, which is just fills my soul. This is what gives me my oxygen. And then she was into space, she's a mother. Her kid's school said, "Hey, can you do a mural?" She had never done a mural before. Next to her in the space is the most accomplished, one of the most accomplished mural artists we had in our community, was her studio mate. Because she's in the space with this guy she didn't know before who came from a very different background and walk of life, she was able to turn to her studio mate and said, "Hey, can you help me do a mural?" They collaborate. She gets that project. This is the mural artist. His name's Serge. It is a very established, very accomplished graffiti artist turned mural artist, right? Never had a studio, never had a public studio. Gets in the space, very deservedly so, gets a lot of press, recognition, and then there's a lot of big things that happen in Miami. He's the artist for the Miami Dolphins. He was the artist on the last Super Bowl campaign. He was in the commercial with Pitbull doing his art. This was F1, which was a big Formula One race that recently happened in Miami. He designed a car. I mean, not saying that it was all because of Zero Empty Spaces, but having the platform to allow artists to get discovered, collected, to grow their practice, to collaborate, to share ideas, obviously provides a myriad of win-win-win benefits. And when I say win-win-win, obviously the artists get the win, but some of the other wins, property owners. Nobody likes that dead corner of the mall. Nobody wants to rent that dead part of the shopping center. This activation, vacancy management, supports the walkability of shopping centers. It helps keep feet in the street longer. So when somebody goes to the mall, instead of just going and getting one thing or two things, it can help retain that person in the mall longer with this activation, which is part of what we do to, we don't sell, and mind you, we don't sell anybody on this. They have to want to do it. And we only work with people that reach out to us, which I know is not a great marketing strategy per the book or what the book says to do. But the few times that I reach out to people that say, hey, what do you think about this? You got this vacant space? Didn't go for it. But when the mayor calls and says, I think you should do this, it's a little bit different story. And now we're getting endorsements by city commissions and mayors and community redevelopment agencies, downtown development authorities, business improvement districts. So this is a little bit just of kind of the model. We do have to charge something because we have to cover our build-out costs, the permitting costs, our travel costs, our operations costs, all those things, and cover a little bit of our time. We're not doing this to get rich. We're not doing this to get ahead. But also, if in all reality, and I think some of you guys know this, if the artist didn't pay anything, they might not be as motivated to go into the space. We guarantee the property owners that we're going to keep the space open and active daily as part of the activation, as part of the value. So we activate them, and because it's studio spaces, property owners feel, and they are, like giving back. They're doing something good with what really is one of the most valuable assets in the world, commercial real estate. So instead of it sitting vacant, and mind you, when the property sits vacant, problems happen. Not just the things that you might think with a blighted building, but like if the AC leaks, if the property manager only goes into that property once a month, and the day after they go for their monthly checkup, the AC leaks, there's 29 days of water leaking and all these things. By having somebody in the space daily, we're able to mitigate maintenance issues. We keep up the AC on behalf of the property owners. So that's just a little bit of the how. This is kind of the approach. Initially, phase one, we communicate with the interested landlord, property owner, and that's all it really takes. It's just one property owner to say, yes, we'll do this. How we get there is fine by us. If it takes an endorsement by a mayor, a city commissioner, whoever, that's fine. But all ultimately it takes is the property owner to say yes. So then we visit the location, we look at the footprint, we run some numbers and calculations, we think about how much money we have to put into it. If there aren't outlets everywhere, and we know artists are going to want outlets to plug something in, we'll bring in an electrician and run outlets, which does cost money, so we have to measure how many outlets we need. The lighting, we know artists are going to need lighting, so we'll look to see, can we replace the bulbs? Do we need to bring in lighting? Stuff like that. And then we do the lease. We provide the insurance. We did have to get a custom commercial real estate insurance policy, which is thousands of dollars, but that's not going to be on the artist, because an artist, that would probably be a no-go. That would probably be a stopper for a lot of artists if they're like, I can't buy this thousands of dollars insurance policy for a use of a retail space, which is not very conventional. So we mitigate that by providing the insurance. We sign the deal, get the space up to code. We get, permits, certificates of occupancies. We do all that, and then we take those bigger spaces and we divide them with subdivider walls into smaller spaces. So space 1 is 96 square feet, space 2 is 100 square feet, so on and so forth. And then after we do the build out, we'll do an open house information session for interested artists to view the property. Very big on grassroots guerrilla marketing. So I'll go onto like Facebook groups, Nextdoor, and all those things to try to get the word out in these new communities that we're starting to serve, just to try to help let more people know about the opportunity, because we're starting to go to different markets where we don't have established footprints and reputations. So we'll do whatever we need to do to get the word out to different artists. Don't mind me and my camera tricks here. All right. So we're doing that. And I already kind of mentioned, obviously, but we just found so many benefits from providing this community space for artists, not just our resident artists, but then our resident artists bring in other artists to collaborate. We host potlucks for artists in the space. We host talks. We host business workshops. I recently brought in arts and entertainment attorney to talk to artists about IP, contracts, NFTs, stuff like that. I'm going to host a workshop coming up here about how to handle burnout through mindfulness for creatives, which is something yoga and meditation and mindfulness has had a profound impact on my life that I fortunately discovered during COVID. So I'm trying to pay it back and pay it forward and spread the mindfulness benefits with creatives, and countless other things that we do in the space. The walkability part is important to the property owners, obviously, to help keep the feet in the street, help support the neighboring tenant, so that neighboring boutique, that neighboring restaurant, coffee shop, whatever, has that much more chance of viability of staying open, because nobody wants to go to that dark corner of the mall, of the shopping center, or whatever the property may be. And then it also helps the properties, so we do this in a current model, in our current iteration. We do this on a month-to-month basis until the property is permanently leased. That is what makes the property owner feel more comfortable with giving the space, which is doing them nothing, it's not serving anybody any good, by having it on this month-to-month basis. It could be 3 months, it could be 3 years, but at least it's doing something good. We also take the utilities off the property managers and property owners' P&L. So they save thousands of dollars a year on the electric and the water that they'd have to pay for, and it helps them show the space daily because it is open and active daily. We also do Matterport virtual reality walkthroughs, which also generally cost hundreds or thousands of dollars to have these really cool, innovative 3D model walkthroughs of the space, which let me actually just show you one of those. Have any of you guys ever seen, it's like they call it, some people call it a dollhouse. So we do these on all of our spaces. So somebody could preview the space and kind of virtually walk through the space, which is pretty cool. It's a really neat use of technology. And then we're actually getting ready to launch e-commerce for artists, not just our artists, but other artists. We're going to start with our resident artists, because we can make the paintings clickable with a hyperlink. So somebody in Richmond, in Boston, in Chicago, and Lansing, they could be touring virtually and say, oh, I like that work, click, and purchase artist artwork. And we're trying to address a lot of the feedback that the artists have given us about why they don't like using Saatchi and Artsy anymore. The shipping policies, the handling, price is never correct, and artists have to generally eat those costs. So we're trying to address those. And then also, do any of you artists in the room, do any of you guys sell on Saatchi or Artsy? It's generally highbrow artists. It's generally, blue chip artists. I align, as you've come to find, with the emerging mid-career artists, the growing artists. They don't generally have so many places to sell, so we're glad to leverage that. This is some of the impacts. I also record podcasts with the artists. We've had a lot of collaborations, as I mentioned, with the mural projects. We get pretty good average attendance for our grand openings. A lot of press coverage. The press has been very generous. We've generated a good economic impact by having the space for the artists to be discovered and collected. It has helped them sell work, and countless other benefits. So, and then social media impressions, all those things. So, just some of the press. This one, as I mentioned, was one we're very proud about. We're not just in retail spaces. I'm sure you guys know office space is hurting. This is the largest office building in the state of Florida. This is the former IBM headquarters. It has the Guinness Book of World Records longest hallway. And they initially brought us in to help fill hallways with art, called Art on Brick Walls. The space is called The Brick, the Boca Raton Innovation Campus. So we started with the art on the walls. They had vacant space because there's 1 million square feet in this office building. And now we have a space for 22 artists in the community in an office building, which also gives like an amenity for the workers that are like, you know, when they're going on their lunch break, they can walk by the artist studio, they could discover an artist. Most people only ever see the finished product. They don't get to see the process because generally artist studios are in homes or industrial warehouse areas, and many people never stumble into an artist studio. So it's cool to put them in different environments, different places, and you know, just WLRN, which is our local NPR affiliate, has been very generous to the concept. They've covered it on an ongoing annual basis, and we're glad to share during COVID that we were continually growing. And then we've done a lot of letting, empowering, enabling, supporting the spaces to serve as venues for nonprofits. And certain locations have used them for certain uses, and other locations have used them for other uses. So our Palm Beach Gardens location, they've partnered with nonprofits. I was mentioning earlier, Palm Beach Symphony wanted to do a fundraiser. Palm Beach Symphony had a lot of discarded instruments that couldn't be played any longer. The artists wanted to support the symphony. Heads come together, minds come together. What if we come up with a musical masterpiece fundraiser where the artists will create artwork on these discarded instruments and do a fundraiser at the season opening event that raise funds in part for the artist as well as for the symphony. And Palm Beach Symphony, it's one of the wealthier symphonies and has a big board, so there was a lot of donors, and it's created another economic impact to support the artists, to support the symphony, generated a lot of positive press and buzz, one of our favorite collaborations. Some of our venues, some of our locations also serve as venues just for like chambers of commerce and nonprofits to have meetups and fundraising events to bring people into a different space instead of going to the traditional, conference room or whatever type of space that they would use. It's obviously more engaging and interactive to put them in an artistic space where there is artwork all around, thankfully. And once again, this, I know you guys might not be familiar with this area, but this shopping center is less than 50% leased. This shopping center is one of two that we have down the street from two of the top 5 malls in the state and arguably the top 5 malls in the country. So all of the major retailers go to that mall. So the 2 of the shopping centers we're in are heavily vacant, but they're beautiful shopping centers. This is a former Woodhouse Day Spa. The other location and the other shopping center is next to Williams-Sonoma. So they're not like bad, shopping centers. They're just struggling with leasing activity. So at the surface level, you might say, nobody wants to be in Legacy Place. This place has a waiting list years long because it is a coveted opportunity because the artists have got an opportunity to participate in fundraisers like this. They do a lot of events, open studios, featured artist exhibits of the month in the lobby, so on and so forth. And I don't know how this happens. I'm not on the sales side of things. I'm on the arts advocacy supporting side of things. We don't take a commission, but every time they do an event, they tell me, and sometimes they like sheepishly tell me that every artist sells, and there's 22 artists in the space, and they get 200 people. Well, you only need 10% of the people to buy work. So these are just some of the models, some of the formulas, some of the takeaways that can be applicable anywhere, because now we've opened in Richmond, Virginia. We've opened in Natick, Massachusetts, which is a suburb of Boston, and we're excited to grow. And then the last thing, have any of you guys ever heard of art leasing? It's not really a thing. We're making it a thing. People don't want to spend money to purchase artwork outright. Fine. How about we give you a fractional share model? So what we do is we'll do 3% of the total value. This is generally going to be for like an office that wants to put art in their lobby, or we worked with a spa that was opening that wanted to have an artistic element to the spa. And 3% of the total value, minimum $10,000 commitment. The business has to pay for the installation, which we work out a flat fee with an installer that we work with, like $600. And they pay 3% a month on a 3, 6, or 12-month basis. The business has an opportunity to purchase the art, like lease-to-own option. And then if they don't want to buy the artwork goes back to the artist, and the artist retains it. And then we do a revenue share split for facilitating the leasing, obviously, and the artist can get paid for work that's in their collection. So that's a really cool thing that we enjoy doing. Some of our partners, these are the 2 biggest mall companies in the world, Simon and Brookfield. These are some of the biggest property management companies. So if it works, we like to tell people, like, if you, let's just say you want this to come to Lansing and you're talking to a commercial real estate developer or property owner that you know, and they're like, oh, I don't know about this. I don't know if this will work in Lansing. You could tell them, if it worked for these guys, it could work for you. And we can't force this down anybody's throat. They have to want to do it. But, you know, like I mentioned, it's working. We're on the east coast of Florida. We're on the west coast of Florida. And we're starting to grow. We waited to grow out of the state during COVID. We finally did. And, yeah, we're glad to do it. It's a beautiful thing. And I guess I'm glad to answer a question.
Do one question.
And then I'll hang around after, yeah.
It's good. Born and raised in Lansing, working class for most of my life, witnessing gentrification at an alarming rate. You said it's not a compensation for state decision, but it is because we have a developer currently who will not be named, who has lots of property downtown and our oldest building downtown. I would say 60% to 70% is empty, and yet he's building a $40 million building, the highest ego tower he can, and doesn't pay his employees with benefits or any of that. So how can we as artists work with you in a way that does not continue the gentrification so that the people that were born here can still afford to live here, because our rent is too damn high?
Agreed. Thankfully, great question. The one thing I do like to tell people, nobody's getting gentrified by putting artists in retail and commercial real estate settings, because those buildings, they might get built on top of, but they're not getting torn down, like the industrial warehouse district, which generally gets redeveloped into condos. So it's a model. I do tell people we can't be everything to everyone. I do work with developers, so I can't poo-poo on developers about the fact that some of them do gentrify areas. But by putting artists in retail and commercial real estate environments, nobody's being displaced and gentrified. It is also fully transparent that this current model is on a month-to-month basis until a permanent lease is signed. It's the opportunity of a lifetime to be in a retail storefront. For many artists to have a studio for $250 a month generally doesn't exist. I was very encouraged by a conversation I had with the pastor about stage 1, and I'm encouraged and hopeful that we will get permanent space donated to us to make available as permanent space to the community, similar to the Torpedo Factory in Virginia, or some of the other models in some other communities that have proven to be beneficial and impactful and support the arts. But I wish I had a better answer for you, but I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's it? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Evan, for that. If, like Evan said, he'll be hanging around a little bit, so if you have additional questions, feel free to grab him and chat a bit.
Not only is this my first time in Lansing, this is my first time in the state of Michigan. Really impressed by the way the community's come together. I'm really impressed by a lot of the ideas that I've been hearing, and I'm really impressed and intrigued by how the creatives and the placemakers in your community are coming together to solve their own unique challenges within the respective communities that they serve. And I've actually already gained a lot of insight and inspiration from some of your proven case models and studies that I'm going to, bring back the transferable parts that apply to my community and the work that I do, and try to share that with other stakeholders and other placemakers and other people that I collaborate with. So I found this to be a great use of my time, a very informational summit, and I certainly plan to come back in the future, even just to attend. Creatives obviously need places to get together to not only collaborate and create, but idea share and ideate ideas. And if there aren't platforms and places in the community for creatives to come together to share these ideas, then we've come to find out that creatives generally have to leave to go other places to pursue their craft, their passion, their creative outlet, their profession, or whatever it may be for them. So by having things like a Creative Placemaking Summit, it provides a safe space and a container for not only the artists and the creatives, but the arts administrators, various people in government, various stakeholders, and other community members to come together to share those ideas, to listen to those ideas, and to hopefully benefit from those ideas. And that's just one of the reasons why I love placemaking. Take the step. Take the step outside of your comfort zone. The best and most creative things in life will happen outside of your comfort zone. It might not be comfortable at first. It might seem like a daunting task. It might seem impossible. But I could tell you from somebody that was a recruiter sitting at a desk, listening to some TED Talks, not into art at all, if you take that step and make a series of choices, you can unlock your hidden potential to change your life, your community, the art world, or the world beyond. And anything is possible. You just have to take that first step. And then I'm just excited to continue growing and expanding Zero Empty Spaces. Since we opened in 2019, we've opened 30 of these spaces in 4 years. We're now in 3 states and 9 counties, having 500 plus artists come through the program, changing hundreds of artists' lives thousands of times over. So I'm looking forward to growing and expanding, opening in more states and more locations, and hopefully we'll have affordable working artist studios here in Lansing in the near future.